Hi all, I'm the Kalinator. Today we're going to talk about another very useful skill in backgammon, and that's knowing when to double or not, or take or pass, with a closed board and one of your opponent's checkers on the bar after you hit it late in the game. You'll always know your winning percentage after this video. Stay tuned. So, you end up hitting this last checker, and now you need to know when to double or whether not to double at all, and if you're from the other side, when to pass or take. So there are methods that tell you 5 off is a borderline double take, 8 off is 50-50, and 11 off is borderline double take for the opponent. Now, I don't like those methods because, first of all, it excludes everything in between. So you know 5, 8, 11, but you don't know 6, 7, and the rest. Second of all, even if you can figure this out, if you play a match and this closed board situation occurs, then you will need a completely different double and take points. So you need to know the exact winning percentage in order to compare it with your double or take points. That's why I came up with a very simple method to always know the winning percentage based on the checker that your opponent has still on the board. So the first thing you need to know is if you hit your opponent's last checker, then you're winning the game 8% of the time. Then if he has one more checker, actually you win all the way up to 30% or something like that. But that's because you can open the board and try to hook for that checker too if he has to enter. Now, from 2 checkers left in the board or more, you start at 17 and you add the respective value in the table for each next checker, 7, 8, 9, and so on. It's that simple. All you need to know is how much is each checker worth and to count them one by one.
I can't remember all those numbers.
Oh, come on! How hard can it be? All you need to remember is 17 plus 7 plus 3 times 1 more plus 2 times repeat plus 2 times 7 plus 2 times 4. That's all you need to know. It's so easy. Let's show it off. I grab a random number of checkers. And now I start counting. This is 17, 24, 32, 41, 51, 61. So I know that I'm winning this game 61% of the time. And there's a trick. If there's a gap in your opponent's home board, this will increase your winning percentage by 5% if it's a low gap. So this would make you up to 66%. And then if it's a double gap like this, or just any kind of, you can call it something like that. Yeah, okay. So that's kind of a higher gap, then you can increase it all the way up by 10%. It's always the increase by about 5-10%. You can never know it for sure, but rounding it to 5 and 10, depending on how bad the gap is visibly, will give you good enough information. So this would make you 71% in this case. There is another trick. If your spares are not well positioned, something like that, for example, then you will actually decrease your winning percentage by those 5 to 10%. So if it's bad, like that, then you remove 5% and the 61 becomes 56. And if it's something really bad, like that, for example, yeah, that's good already, then you will decrease it by 10%. So the 61 becomes 51. And conversely, if there is a gap and your spares are bad positioned, the 10 and 10% just take each other out. So you will have the same number that you get with the initial calculation, which in this case, as we showed, was 61. Now let's try it once more, again with a random number of checkers. Oh. 17, 24, 32, 41, 51. As easy as that. Now, before we continue, don't forget to check out the Kalinator backgammon series or my backgammon course, which will make you a master with multi-million of those tricks. And of course, don't forget to check out my previous video that was about the running pip count. That's always something that you need in live backgammon. There's a link for that right over here. This method is really easy to remember, and at the same time it gives you complete information and makes your decision as easy as possible, as long as you know your double and take points based on the match score, which is the topic of a future video. I'll make sure I make one on that. Now, it's definitely worth remembering those few numbers. It comes up fairly often, and in fact, since I learned it, I have not made a single closed board cube blunder, and I've learned it now for quite a few months. In fact, it took me just a few days to master. No more than 3 days, you'll know all those numbers and use it as smooth as possible.
Okay, fine. And what do you do when you start bearing off?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was about to talk about. So sometimes you figure out that with a closed board it's not quite a double yet. But once you start bearing off and you have fewer checkers on the board, and your opponent is still on the bar, of course it may be. Now, I figured out that the increase in your winning chances after bearing off is very volatile. So it could go much high in one row, or it could go much down in one row. And due to those big swings, it ends up being about the same decision in many match scores. That's why I thought it's more simpler if I switch back to another method, the typical how many off does he have, but with a few adjustments. So first of all, I split it in 3 categories. He can have 6 to 7 off, this will have one decision threshold. He can have 8, 9 off, this will have another threshold. And if he has 10 or more checkers off, this will have another threshold. Then I remember the numbers 3, 4, and 5.
What does it have to do with your decision?
Well, I compare how many less off I have than him in order to have a double. The threshold for the 3 different categories is 3, 4, and 5. Now, there are a few rules that you need to remember. The first of them is the more off he has, the earlier it becomes a double, and respectively, the less off, the later the double. This will solve you the confusion which is 3 and which is 5. The second rule you need to remember is it is always required just one more checker over the double threshold in order for it to become a pass. And there is a third rule, and that is the middle category is a concrete value. It's always 4 and never 5, while the other 2 categories, the front and the end one, they are 3 or 5 respectively. However, it may also be a 4, so it is not a concrete value, it's floating, and I will explain how just in a second. I'll start with the middle category because it's really simple. As we said, it's a concrete value, so it's always the same, it's the easiest one to remember. In this case, he has 3, 6, 8 checkers off, which falls into that middle category, that's 8 or 9 off. Now we have 3 off, this means that we have 5 less off than him. We remember our threshold was 4, so this is not yet a double. But if we had one more off, it would be a double. And then if we had one more off, it would already be a pass, because now we have 3 less off. So going back, here we have 5 less off, it's still not a double. Here we have 4 less off, it is a double. Here we have 3 less off, it's already a pass. Now let's go back to the front category where, as we said, it's a floating value. while your threshold is 3, it can also be a double with 4 less off. Now let's start in this position. He has 6 checkers off, while we have only 2. This means it's not yet a double because it's 4 less off. Well, wait. We said it can be a 4. Yeah, okay, it would be a double here. That's 4 less off. It's still the same, but it would be a double. Well, there we go. You're down to this 4-point board. You're favored to bear off 2 checkers in the next row. That's why it's a double with 4 less off. While here, you are not a favorite to bear off 2 checkers, unless you want to leave a shot, but you're not going to do that. That's why here it's still not a double with 4 less off. And if you had 1 more off, then you have 3 less off. That's a double. And if you had 1 more off, then you have 2 less off, and that's already a pass, 1 more over the threshold. Also here, as we said, that's a double, because you are down without the 6 and 5 points, so you're favored to bear off 2. Well, okay, so this is a double, and it means that 1 more off will already be a pass. And then we are left with the final category, and that's when he has 10 or more off. We remember our threshold was 5, but we also remember it was a floating value, meaning it may also still be a 4. So you remember how it worked for the front category? Here is the same. If you're already cleared the 6, 5 and 4 points, so you're favored to bear off 2 more checkers on the next row, then it's a 5. Otherwise, you still need 4 less off. Now, what do we have here? 3, 6, 10 off. Well, I have 5 off, which means that I have 5 less off, but I'm not favored to bear off 2. So this is still not a double, but if it were this, then it's already becoming a double. So this is a double. And here, as we know, 1 more over the threshold makes it already a pass. So this will be a pass. Now we go back. We had this for a start, and it was not a double. Well, if we have 1 more off, so then we have 4 less off. So that's a definitive double. In the front, in the end category where you have 10 or more off, it's definitely a double with 4 less off. And this would be a pass already. And the other thing you need to remember for that category is that if he starts running, the number of crossovers he makes, well, you need just that more off for it to be a double. So he makes 2 crossovers, you need 2 more checkers off for it to be a double.
Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it and I hope this medals helps you in your next tournament. If there's anything you would like to add, make sure to write down a comment. And if there is a specific topic you would like me to make a video about, then write down a comment as well and I'll make sure to have it done. Have a wonderful day and good rolls. See you all next time. Hello, I'm the Kalinator. Today we're going to talk about
This is the same, just round it to plus 10%, that makes you have 61%. If it's this, as we said, it's 5%. So then there are a few rules that you need to remember. The first of them is scene 7 after bearing off, running. Well, I compare how many less off I have than him in order for it to be a double. The threshold for the 3 different categories is 6